Good evening, my lovelies. Welcome. I'm Lady Creepypasta. I trust you all had a wonderful Halloween, considering the times we are currently in. Regardless, I'm sure you kept the spirit alive within you. Speaking of keeping alive, I need your help to keep my entry for the Chilling Tales for Dark Nights Evil Idol competition alive. There are just 2 days of voting left for me, including today, so if you haven't done so already, head on over to the Chilling Tales for Dark Nights YouTube page and search for my entry. Then click on that thumbs up icon. I have even included a direct link to the video in the episode description below. As this is being recorded, I am 300 votes shy of hitting the 1,000 likes mark, so I do hope you give me a boost. Competition is very stiff this year, so I will need all the votes I can get. Spread the word to family ghosts and ghouls, my lovelies. I do hope I will see you in round 2 as well. For now, though, let's proceed to this evening's tale. This one is a short but sweet one from Creepypasta Wiki. So let's jump straight in, shall we? Come now, my dears. Lean in closer, and we'll begin. I felt like it was going to be a night like any other. You know, lying in my bed for hours just staring at the ceiling with nothing to do because of my insomnia. Ever since I was diagnosed with insomnia, I've never been the same. I lost sleep, my grades plummeted, and my friends didn't want to hang around me anymore because I was hardly ever awake. Although, whenever I tried to sleep, I kept getting the strangest feeling, as if someone was watching me. Most people feel like they're being watched when they're alone in the dark, but no. This feeling followed me wherever I went. I couldn't even walk down the street without getting chills down my spine. I started to get used to the chills. Then I began to hear things. Every waking moment of every day, I would start hearing high-pitched whispers in my ears. What were they saying to me? No idea. I had no idea what was making these noises or where it was coming from, but they needed to stop. The voice kept telling me to do psychotic things. As odd as it may sound, it almost gave me the urge to hurt someone. I know it sounds crazy, but it made me feel as if I really wanted to kill someone, hurt them, watch them cry. These whispers, I hated them. I hated all of it. Before any of this ever happened, I was fine. The normal kid outside throwing a football around with his dad. Not anymore. I've changed. I've changed way too much. In a way, I felt attached to these whispers. No, not the whispers, the thing causing the whispers. Sometimes it almost felt too close for comfort. I honestly can't tell you how I felt. The only way I can really describe these whispers is tempting. I can't really explain why, but these whispers made me feel as if I needed to do this. As if it was my job to do what it said. It was like any other normal day, tossing and turning, sitting in that room full of silence when I started having visions. They weren't normal, let me tell you that. Trippy effects, neon colors flashing before my eyes. I wouldn't really call them dreams, considering they weren't something a normal kid would dream about, or at least not what I think they would. Should I call it a nightmare? Yeah, that one sounds better. Anyway, I saw this person flash by a few times. Actually, no, scratch that. It wasn't human. It was this creature, a demonic creature. It was naked. I could see its whole bare body. It had nothing but a cloth covered in between its legs. It was a small, dark figure, almost shadow-like, but with a human shape. Its face consisted of 2 dark black pupils. Its smile was vicious, and I could see its sharp, rotting fangs hanging out of its mouth. The thing's head I wasn't too sure about. It had these horns, kind of like a ram's horns. I didn't know what to think of this. All I knew was that at this moment, that screeching yet whispering creature could not keep taunting me like this. It was the reason for my insomnia, my anxiety, my everything. I kept hearing the faint, menacing whisper. It told me to kill my parents. I sat there in shock as it sat there in the dark of the corner, grinning. No, you're not real. I won't do it. I'm not. Before I could even reply, the creature jumped onto my bed and stabbed a foreign, sharp object into my ribcage. I felt the cold blade puncture my skin and the warm blood trickle down my body. It looked me right in my face with a satanic grin and replied, I came from the darkness at 4:30. I entered your bedroom, but not from the door. If don't kill them before 5:30, no one in your house will be left alive. I jolted from my bed, heart racing. My fingers were clutching my bed sheets. I wiped the sweat off my forehead and took a few deep breaths. I looked down at my stomach. No stab wound. With a sigh of relief, I looked at my alarm clock. 4:28. I stood up from my bed and looked over at my closet. The door was open. I recalled shutting that. I remembered. I narrowed my eyes and stared at it for a few long-lasting seconds. I then remembered the dreadful nightmare I had. I walked backward into the far right corner of my room and began to motion my body down the wall until I had hit the floor. No, this can't be happening. This can't be real. Not me, no, this isn't true. I put my head between my knees and sobbed. My sobs began to turn into laughs. Moments later, I lifted my head and I realized that I was no longer sobbing. I was laughing. I looked at the clock again. 4:38. I jumped to my feet. 4:30, I whispered. I stood there in shock. What has happened? Could what that creature have said to me be true? Would it really kill me and my parents if I didn't kill them myself? Was this creature even real in the first place? I didn't want to take any chances. I didn't like my parents anyway, especially my father. As a child, he'd compare me to my sister, a smart, successful, brilliant woman. Unlike me, a horrible insomniac student who slept through most of their classes and didn't even try most of the time. My father always told me how much of a failure I was compared to her. God, I hated him so much. My mother, on the other hand, wasn't as bad at torturing me as him. She was much nicer to me. At some points, she'd even yell at my father for being so harsh on me. It didn't matter now. They were both going to get what they deserved. I slowly crept down the stairs and made my way into the kitchen. I grabbed a kitchen knife from one of the drawers and looked at the oven clock. 5:08. I was running out of time. As I walked into my parents' bedroom, I noticed the creature's small, black, piercing eyes peering at me through the darkness. It was screaming at me. "Do it! Do it! Do it!" I held the knife above my head and screamed, "Leave me alone!" My parents awoke to the image of me standing there holding a knife, about to brutally murder both of them. My father jumped out of his bed, tackling me to the floor. As my father tried to wrestle the knife out of my hand, my mother was calling 911. Less than 10 minutes later, the police showed up and lugged me out of the bedroom. As they were dragging me through the halls, I looked back at the clock. 5:23. I was so close. This could have all been over if only I'd had a few more seconds. I could have finished this. Seconds after the police officers threw me in the back of the cruiser, I blacked out. I woke up minutes later. The cruiser was driving down a long road to the police station. It was raining. I looked out the window and it seemed as if I went deaf for a moment. All I could hear was a faint whisper in the distance. It was 4:30, now 5:30. Neither you or your parents will be left alive. I snapped out of the trance and looked at the clock in the car. 5:31. My eyes didn't leave that clock for what seemed like hours, trying to portray what was going to happen in my mind. Seconds later, one of the police officers' walkie-talkies starts going off. It's from the officer who was interrogating my parents at my house. He said he went out to get his notepad from the car, and when he came back, they were dead. They had stab wounds all over their backs and their throats were slit. However, there was one thing that stood out along the wreck. The time, 5:30, was written in blood on the wall. My parents, they're dead? The car pulls over to the side of the road and the two police officers just sit there. Unable to comprehend what had just happened. After about 3 minutes of sitting in silence, the cruiser starts back up and continues down the road. The men don't even glimpse back at me. We arrive at the police station minutes later. I was greeted by two muscular men who suited me up in a tight straitjacket and threw me into a white padded windowless cell. I sit there and think. I can't remember how long I've been thinking at this point. Days? Months? Years? I can't remember. All I know is that this is my life now. Sitting in my padded cell, where all my screams for help are ignored and my requests for help are disposed of. I just sit here, day after day after day, awaiting for this creature to save me from this inescapable nightmare. If you're reading this, then please, I beg of you, take my advice. Don't look at the thing in the dark of the court. Thank you once again for joining me, my dears. Now, I hope you head on over to my entry for the Chilling Tales for Dark Nights Evil Idol competition on their YouTube page. And remember to click on the thumbs up icon to vote for me. That's all I have for you this evening, my dears. Till next time, sweet dreams.